Welcome to South Asia Today, a show that provides you the glimpses of South Asia. I'm your host Yeshi. Here are the headlines. Nepal appoints Liberal Dioba as new Prime Minister amid protests. Furukawa Electric launches industrial laser technology in Japan. And Rath Yatra begins without devotees in India's Puri. Let's begin the show. While Taliban's subsistence and training in the last 2 decades was largely being taken care of by Islamabad, it is now providing their military support too in waging a war against Kabul. Vice President of Afghanistan Amrullah Saleh has accused Islamabad of intimidating Kabul with airstrike consequences for retaliating to the Taliban's territory capturing spree. An ill-equipped Kabul has also urged regional and global powers to assist Afghanistan in the larger interest of the region and the world.
A series of tweets by Vice President of war-torn Afghanistan, Amrullah Saleh, has made things crystal clear for those who were skeptical of Pakistan driving the entire Taliban resurgence. An airstrike by Pak Air Force would follow if Kabul tried to dislodge Taliban from its border with Pakistan, said an official Pakistani statement, according to Saleh. Taliban fighters have captured the Spin Boldak Chaman border, the second most important crossing on the border with Pakistan and a major source of revenue for the Western-backed government in Kabul. Although Kabul has claimed that its security forces had retaken control of the town hours after the Taliban seized it, Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid dismissed that and said his forces still held it, and as a result, common people are suffering. The fighting that intensified after the US President Joe Biden announced in April a complete US withdrawal by symbolic September 11 has reached unprecedented levels in the past couple of weeks. While Taliban claims to have captured around 200 districts, Kabul has been denying their claims with counterclaims of reclaiming many of the captured territories. In the past 10 weeks alone, over 3,600 civilians have been killed. The country has also lost 1,000 soldiers since then, 200,000 people being displaced internally, and conflict in 150 districts. Meanwhile, an optimistic Kabul has said that regional players like India can play a positive role in restoring stability in the country. Afghan ambassador in New Delhi, Farid Mamunze, believed India could positively influence the peace process if it were to participate in it.
India has been a major partner and India can play a very constructive role. India can play a role in our peace process together with other responsible regional actors like Iran and Russia. India can, utilizing its convening power to put more pressure on Taliban through diplomatic channels to come to the negotiating table and put an end to the violence.
India has for several years been assisting Afghanistan in nation building, including its contributions to Afghanistan's education, politics and diplomacy. Meanwhile, the Taliban has resumed what they were always known for, the hardline Sharia philosophy. In what could be termed as horrific, reports say Taliban has notified in the region it has captured to submit details of unmarried and married women under 45 years of age. The Taliban, who ruled Afghanistan with an iron fist from 1996 until their ouster in 2001 by the US, didn't allow any freedom to women. They were forced to cover from head to foot, were not allowed to leave their houses without a male companion, and were not allowed to work. Emboldened by the departure of foreign forces by a September target and with peace talks stalled, Taliban have already assumed the return of their rule, and if that becomes a complete reality, then not just all the progress made in these years will be reversed, but experts fear the country might witness a civil war too.
Moving on, months after the Himalayan nation Nepal plunged into a political crisis, which also included double dissolution of parliament by Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, the country has a new Prime Minister in veteran politician Sher Bahadur Deuba. The President appointed him to the chair after the Supreme Court of the country reinstated the parliament and removed KP Sharma Oli from the leadership. The road ahead, however, is not going to be easy, as Deuba has been asked to prove majority on the floor of the House in next 30 days.
In a major turn of events in the Himalayan nation, Sher Bahadur Deuba, a veteran politician who has held the chair of Prime Minister 4 times before, was appointed as the Prime Minister for the 5th time following a Supreme Court ruling. The Apex Court order was based on the 30 writ petitions, including one from Deuba himself and 146 parliament members, demanding the appointment of Deuba as the Prime Minister. Calling his claim over the PM chair unconstitutional, the Supreme Court overturned Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's 21st May decision to dissolve the House of Representatives and ordered the appointment of Deuba. KP Sharma Oli had earlier dissolved the House in December last year, which was reconstituted in February 23. However, after failing to gather enough support on the floor of the House, Oli dissolved it again in May.
नेपालको राजकीय सत्ता र सार्वभौम सत्ता नेपाली जनतामा निहित रहेको नेपालको संविधानप्रति पूर्ण वफादार रही सत्यनिष्ठापूर्वक ईश्वरको देश र जनताको नाममा शपथ लिन्छु कि प्रधानमन्त्री पदको जिम्मेवारी वहन गर्दा
It wasn't just the political instability that was brewing in the country, but the people suffering due to routine fallouts had also expressed their anger. Several protests were carried out earlier this month against KP Sharma Oli, who the protesters accused was not leaving the chair despite not having the majority. The protesters set Oli's effigy on fire while sloganeering against the government. The next elections in the country are expected to be held in mid-November.
यो देशमा केपी ओली नामको एउटा तानाशाह भन्ने सपना बोकेर हिँडिराखेको प्रतिगामीको नायके केपी ओलीले यो देशमा अध्यादेश मार्फत शासन र सत्ता चलाउने जनताको जनप्रतिनिधिमूलक संस्था चाहिँ प्रतिनिधि सभालाई विघटन गर्ने र आफूलाई जे मन लागो त्यही गर्ने.
Experts say that the decision will prove to be a big respite for the common people who have been enduring a multi-layered crisis in the absence of real leadership. Nepal has been hit by the second wave of the pandemic, with infection rates showing no signs of abating even after days of strict curbs. A strong leadership with focused decision-making, they say, can save more lives, as the country has also not procured and ordered enough vaccines amid the growing crisis.
Now we take a look at some happenings in Asia in a segment called Asia Watch.
As COVID-19 vaccination center in Malaysia was ordered to close for sanitization after more than 200 volunteers and workers there tested positive over the weekend, the country's science minister said. Those inoculated from July 9 to 12, the center, about 25 kilometers outside Kuala Lumpur, are advised to self-isolate for 10 days. The facility has a capacity of about 3,000 doses daily. Of the 453 workers and volunteers screened, 204 tested positive. The incident comes as Malaysia reported 11,079 new coronavirus infections on Tuesday, the most number of cases recorded in a single day since the start of the pandemic. The center will resume vaccination on Wednesday after sanitization and a charge in staffing. China will send 431 athletes to the Tokyo Games as part of a 777-member delegation, the country's sports body told the media. The team includes 298 female athletes and 133 male athletes, with a range in age from 14-year-old female diver Kwan Hong-chan to 52-year-old male equestrian rider Li Zhengqiang, according to state television station CCTV. China has already secured 318 spots in 225 events for 30 disciplines, the official Xinhua news agency reported. The Games are set to open on July 23rd in the face of worries that an influx of tens of thousands of people from around the world could trigger another wave of COVID-19 infections. Thailand implemented its toughest coronavirus restrictions in more than a year in Bangkok and surrounding provinces, with new curbs on movement and gatherings imposed and widespread suspensions by airlines and bus firms. Authorities have urged people in and around Bangkok, the outbreak epicenter, to work from home and have set up 145 checkpoints in 10 high-risk provinces, including 88 in the capital, to try to curb non-essential regional travel. The restrictions, initially for 2 weeks, aim to slow the spread of the coronavirus and include curfew, mall closures, and a 5% limit on gatherings after a period of record or near-record deaths and cases. Meanwhile, Thailand's mass immunization strategy against the coronavirus will now include administering a shot of AstraZeneca's viral vector vaccine after one dose of Sinovac's vaccine, Health Minister said on Monday. The plan, if implemented, would be the first publicly announced mix and match of a Chinese vaccine and a Western developed shot. The move aims to increase protection against highly transmissible variants.
Be it organizing a grand event or introducing new innovations, Japan and its companies have never failed to give their best. Recently, Furukawa Electric Company launched an industrial laser technology in Tokyo. Apart from being technologically advanced, the country has preserved its ancient skills and art and perennially works to keep them alive. Let's take a glimpse.
Japan's Furukawa Electric has been developing fiber technology. Based on its traditional technology, the company is now enhancing itself through a cutting-edge technology in the field of energy, information, heat conduction, connection and storing. Furukawa is contributing to the infrastructure, car parts and electronics industry. Its contribution enriched the world industry since its 1884 establishment. Furukawa developed and launched an industrial laser. Fiber laser of Furukawa has many strong points like high beam quality, time stability, high reliability and high effect. Those ideal functions enabled quick expansion in the field of metal material processing field. Deep melting, high-speed processing and decreasing welding defects enabled to solve the problem of industry. The strain is less than general arc welding. This characteristic ensures high-speed processing.
こちらがファイバーレーザーを使って、加工の評価をしている実験室です。お客様が来られて一緒に実験をしたり、開発したレーザーを評価したりしています。こちらへどうぞ。こちらが古川電工で製造販売している 12kW のファイバーレーザーです。中で作られた高出力の光がこちらの光ファイバーの中を通って加工室の中に伝送されます。で外から入ってきたレーザー光が光ファイバーの中を通りまして、このような加工用の光学計ガルバノスキャナーを通って加工点の金属を加工することになります。
Welding of thin copper board is a key technology. Furukawa developed the machine for fiber laser plus blue laser. It enables to control exposure of laser to make binding plural thin copper board. 12 kilowatt fiber laser systems can control fiber laser fitting to target. Most distinctive technology is spatterless is equal to without spark fiber laser. Its exposure does not provoke any spark to make precise welding. Removing the rust is also future promised technology. Furukawa's fiber laser system, cultivated based on fiber optic technology, will contribute to solving the problems of global warming and zero carbon emission. Furukawa's technology is integral to establish future sustainable global environment. Traditional dyed fabrics are fluttering softly as they are hung to dry. These beautiful design materials will be used later to make yukata, Japanese casual kimono. This traditional dyeing workshop in Tokyo's Edogawa ward has been in business for over 100 years. They use a 300-year-old technique of hand dyeing called chosen, which means pouring dye, originated in the early Edo period.
戦中に、うちのおじいさんが、昭和の29年に逃げてきまして、この場で、この土地で、工場を作り始めました。でうちの、注染っていう技法なんですけれども、4つの工程に分かれておりまして、1つが後ろで見ていただいている、白い反物からスタートして、で板場で柄付けをして、高野で染色をして、水元で、残った余分な染料とか糊を全部落としてあげた後、またこういうふうに天日の外で干されるようになります。
Unlike machine printing, this method dyes the threads of the fabric rather than just the surface of the cloth. This allows superimposition of delicately illustrated images, refined expression of color gradations, and double-sided reproduction of images. Most important, no two pieces of dyed fabric are exactly alike, producing subtle taste variations in every dyeing job. Finally, drying takes place outside on the roof under the natural sun. This shop in Tokyo specializes in selling traditional dyed fabric that can be tailored later into yukata. The selling season begins each year in April and reaches its peak between July and August, when many summer festivals take place.
浴衣というのはですね、日本人がお風呂ですね、入る時にそれがだんだん衣装として、少しずつ外に出てきたわけでして、そういう意味で浴衣の柄というのは非常に一つ一つの柄が派手でございますし、見たいということであれば、例えば花火大会だとか、あるいはお祭りだとか、こういった時が一番多いんじゃないでしょうかね。
Mastering traditional dyeing takes many years, with Japanese artisan crafts passed to generations. Beautiful yukata can be still seen in many places across Japan.
India's culture is rooted in colorful festivals that dates back to ancient history. One such festival is the holy Rath Yatra, also known as Chariot Festival, which is celebrated every year across India with great joy and enthusiasm. It is a significant Hindu festival as Lord Jagannath, along with his siblings, come by chariots for general sojourn and go to Gundicha temple. After a stay of 9 days at the Gundicha temple, the deities return to their abode. Let's have a look. Decked up chariots, processions and religious fanfare by tens of thousands of devotees, this is what an annual chariot festival or Rath Yatra looks like. However, due to strict measures imposed to prevent a spike in the infection rate, the festival in the town of Puri, whose annual spectacle is popular and visited by people from around the world, the festivities were a low-key affair this time around. Only priests and servitors who tested RT-PCR negative were allowed to participate in the procession.
Rath Yatra is one of the biggest festivals celebrated in Odisha, and it is widely celebrated in all over Odisha, and people outside India also come to Odisha to see how Rath Yatra is celebrated, and it is usually celebrated in a very grand way, but due to Corona, first wave and lockdown. We haven't celebrated it in more than 2 years.
Jagannath Rath Yatra, or the Chariot Festival, commemorates Hindu Lord Jagannath's annual visit to Gundicha temple near Balagandi, Chakapuri. The festival is celebrated by worshipping the Lord, who is also known as the ruler of the world according to Hindu mythology, with his elder brother Balbhadra and sister Subhadra. According to religious customs, Lord Jagannath is taken out on a chariot and taken to the famous Gundicha Mata temple, where the Lord rests for 7 days. After this, the return journey of Lord Jagannath begins.
Last 2 years, we have been, because of this pandemic, we have been suffering from by staying home and not going out and obeying the COVID guidelines as administered by the Puri administration. And for the last 2 years, we have been unfortunate to not see God, Lord Jagannath. And this function is particularly where Lord comes out of the temple and visits all his bhaktas. And this time also, like last year, we also could not participate in the chariot festival, which happens once in a year.
Around each of these chariots are 9 Parswa Devtas, painted as wooden images representing different deities on the chariot's sides. Besides this, each chariot is attached to 4 horses, which are of different colors, such as dark ones for Balbhadra, white ones for Jagannath and red ones for Subhadra.
आज स्पेशल दिन है, इसलिए मैं आई हूँ यहाँ पर। मेरा मम्मी है, मेरे बच्चे, मेरे हस्बैंड सभी आए हैं जगन्नाथ देव के दर्शन करने।
The auspicious festival was also celebrated in other parts of the country with limited gatherings. The hymns of Jai Jagannath reverberated around the temple premises as devotees offered prayers to the deities. Over the years, such festivals have gone a long way in highlighting the cultural treasure trove of the states of the region, particularly focusing on the spiritual traditions. It's time for me to wrap up today's episode. We will be back next week at the same time. This is Yeshi signing off on behalf of the entire production team of South Asia Today. Goodbye and take care.